Sitaram, welcome to SWA DHARMA, carried exclusively on Samkhya TV on Thursdays between 6:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. SWA DHARMA, where we look at some of the founding principles within Sanatana Dharma and where we discuss them in satsang. So we are on the topic and we will conclude that topic this evening. Topic being the 7 questions posed at the end of Ramayan by Garud Maharaj and allowing the wise Kagbhushundiji to offer the answers. A quick look at the questions discussed in the past 2 programs with brief answers. Question number 1, which is the most prized body to attain, and after much and deep examination, we realize it is the human body if it realizes its full potential. Question number 2, what is the greatest misery? Determined by Kagbhushundiji, poverty, more so spiritual poverty. Question number 3, what is the greatest pleasure? That being meeting with the holy, with those who are the custodians of knowledge, the spiritual, having contact with them, spending time with them is the greatest pleasure. Question number 4, what are the differences between a sant, a holy person, and the wicked? Kagbhushundiji was quick to point out that the sant is like the bhurjataru, and that birch tree which offers itself for the benefit of the world, and the habits of the wicked he discussed from many angles. He's talked about the habits of the wicked is like how it's like rope and it's the process of manufacture. The habit of the wicked is like a snake. The habit of the wicked is like the mouse, the rat. The habit of the wicked is like hailstorm. So we move now to question number 5. What is the highest merit? In the Chaupai itself, Kawana Punya Shruti Virita Vishara. Punya being blessing, merit. Which is the highest merit? So we discuss, we speak, we put forward answers, suggestions. Is it regular visits to the house of God? Does that make us be labeled as having the highest blessing? How many times those who visit the house of God don't allow the teachings of whether it's the pastor, the priest, the imam, the pandit, there is no provision for what is spoken on the pulpit to become part of our life. So it's almost going to the house of God without departing and implementing these teachings is virtually an act of futility. So there are 2 sides of the coin. It may be beneficial, it may be highest merit, it may not be the highest merit. Is it being in an environment where there are few challenges? So, things are going, as we say, honky-dory in life. And we look at other people and say, oh man, they're blessed. Because look, nothing is going on. They don't have any challenges. Everything is going super and fine. We don't know. The biggest stage in the world is inside the mind. And externally, people might be seemingly happy, seemingly comfortable, but we don't know what is really going on, transpiring in that mind. So it's debatable whether that is really what appears to be the highest merit is really and truly the highest blessing and merit. Is it being popular? Is popularity when one rises, when one zeniths into fame, is that the sign of that person having reaped the highest reward, the highest blessing? Let's hear what Kagbhushundiji offers. And he says, Parama Dharma Sruti Vidit Ahimsa, the highest religious merit, the highest merit and blessing of anyone, regardless of one's God of liking and understanding, is Ahimsa, which is non-violence. Himsa means violence. And our first interpretation of violence is the physical act of violence committed on our fellow man. But Sanatana Dharma was quick to point out that acts of violence committed on animals still falls under violence. Whether it's human or animal, still falls under violence. So acts of violence committed on animals, one then does not carry the quality of ahimsa, non-violence, which is the highest merit, the highest blessings. And we observe when we talk about acts of violence. If one goes back into history, One is pained to, in the case of indentureship, to read about the details of the voyage over Kalapani, as we say, the black waters, how cramped and packed like sardines some of our ancestors came under squalid conditions on these shores. And we are pained about that. Yet, we are driving on the road, and ahead of us might be a 3-ton vehicle, as the case may be, and packed like sardines, but not sardines, of chickens and hens and so forth, cramped in plastic crates, one on top of the other, all, as we say, daner to the stars, all exposed to the elements, the sunlight. So they too are having their journey, which we rebuke, but condone as far as the animals is concerned. And we take it a step further. What happened to that little chicken, as the case may be, poultry? What happened the morning before? If we went back to the run, the little enclosure where they are kept, we would see when morning comes, the rooster is there, and the mother hen will be walking and getting scraps of food, and she will first allow her chicks to feed, and then she feeds. So there is a filial connection in the animal world, and it's not exclusively in the case of chickens. It happens with all the animals, cows, goats, sheep, etc. There is a filial connection. And when Sant Tulsidas pronounced and talked about acts of violence, he is also covering acts of violence committed on animals. And that brings us to the junction where a Hindu is himsa durhona, as we have said, and will not belabor the point, that one who lives away from violence, himsa durhona, such a person is a Hindu. So Kagbushundi says that ahimsa, non-violence, is really the greatest blessing, the greatest religious merit of an individual, more so of the Hindu. And it poses the question, what about, where does capital punishment fit into all this? Well, there is the justice system to deal with that. And one of the main criteria that has to be pondered upon, and the jury is still out on that, so to speak, is what do we do with criminals beyond reformation? And anybody who has worked in the trenches with all their good intentions and good wishes and good techniques, allowing discretion to be the better part of valor in the course of their negotiations, in the course of trying to reform those in the trenches, we all know, truth be told, that there are some who refuse to change, who prefer to stay in the mud of ignorance. So too in the criminal world, there is that. So what do? We release them to perpetrate the acts of horror and violence, sometimes fatal acts of violence on society, on the multitudes. So that is in the court of the justice system. And there lies the answer about how do we talk about violence in that context. But these have to be factored. And we just turn our attention to the destruction of Ravan by Ram, to the destruction of Kams by Bhagwan Krishna. Continuing, Kagbushundi looks at the sixth question, the fifth question, being the greatest religious merit. If you look at the fifth Kand of Ramayan, Sundar Kand, it deals a lot about Sri Hanuman, the chief servant of Bhagwan. And within the writings of Sundar Kand, one quickly realizes that Hanuman, along with Angad later on Ramayan, but Hanuman went on his own volition to Ravan. And he went there to have negotiations with Ravan, to desist from waging war, physical warfare with Sri Ram Chandra. So the act of non-violence is symbolized as the flag of Sanatana Dharma. And of course, no better person than Hanumanji to hold that flag. In question 6, Kakbhushanji is asked by Guru Maharaj, Kahahu Kavan Aga Param Karara. What is the greatest sin? And we entertain in our mind for a bit. Is the greatest sin being late for prayer one day? It does happen. We might have been tired from the previous night, long hours of study, what have you, and we get up late. And, the prayer is shortened. Is that really a sin? Is it lying? Lying is not something that is approved, but is that the greatest sin? Or is it breaking rules? Sometimes the status quo has to be challenged. In the course of history, the times when the status quo were challenged, many times by noble people, many times it brought about a better world. So, although it may create discomfort, is breaking the rules necessarily the greatest sin? What is the pronouncement of Kakji? Paraninda sama aganagarisa. The greatest sin is when we speak ill of others, because sin is defined as that act which creates discomfort or causes harm to a fellow man and or the environment. That is sin. Not whether we are regular in prayer and we are late one day. Not we all do tell untruths from time to time. We don't endorse it, but is that really the greatest sin? And Kakji says, when the child is disrespectful to the parents, and when that disrespect is panned out as raised voices and cutting statements, Kakji says the hurt it creates in the mother or the father, the guardian as the case may be, is sometime irrevocable. And that sort of pain is really and truly causes one to be classified as being really committing the greatest sin, where that hurt is created to a fellow human being without any just cause, where we have crossed borders. The same applies to teachers and mentors. Students and mentees have to pay attention to this, because Kakji says when we are disrespectful, we create that pain, and that type of pain which is unwarranted, we too will have, you do the crime, you do the time. We too one day will have to, as we say in Hindi, bhogi, or undergo the negative results of such acts. Pollution, yes, that is where we harm the environment, we destroy the environment. So that too can be classified as sin. And even cutting down forests, that too is classified as sin. But of all these acts where we create discomfort to our fellow man and to the environment, ninda, where derogatory statements, rumor mongering, assassination of people's good character, it's the greatest sin. If we can't help a situation, we encourage that situation to be handled by someone who is capable. But we don't go announcing the negative habits of people, because it demotivates them. It derails that person with all their flaws and faults from ever treading the highway of righteousness at all in life. And it kills the spirit when we continue to speak ill of others, particularly when it does not have basis and foundation to it. So we have got to be careful about rumor mongering and about keeping and holding court, or allowing ourselves to be part of that audience where rumors are spread, where people's character is assassinated, because we too might not be the ones speaking, but we are part of the audience, and hence Kagji says that makes us carry the burden and the wages of the most hideous sin, speaking ill of others, assassinating people's character. In the 6th Kand of Ramayan, the second to last Kand or volume in the 7 volumes of Ramayan, Lanka Kand, Mandodari, the consort of Ravan, pointed out to him, at least on 2 occasions, that desist from speaking ill of Ram. Quickly, the history, remember, the spouse of Sri Ramchandra was held by Ravana's bait, so that at the end of the day, Ravan knew he was going to be demolished by Ram, but at least he would have died at the hands of God and so redeem himself of the Rakshas body. And Mandodari tell him, that is, you are going down the wrong path, and it is going to cost you, and in this case it's cost Ravan his life, because he was hell-bent on making such remarks, unwarranted attacks on the character of Sri Ramchandra, and hence his demise. So in the 7th and final question, Manas Roga Kahahu Sabagai, Garud Maharaj asks on behalf of us to the very capable Kagbhushundiji, what are the diseases of the mind? Manas being mind, Rog will be disease, and he wants to know, Kahahu Sabagai, tell me at length what these diseases are. And we begin to wonder, and is it attachment is the greatest disease of the mind? That sometimes attachment causes us to turn a blind eye to the child who is misbehaving at home, and so will carry that misbehavior into the school environment, and it spells the destruction of that educational process if we allow that to go on. So is attachment really the greatest disease, or one of the diseases of the mind of great concern? Is it pride? Well, the old Englishman has said, or English will have said, pride cometh before a fall. That, what follows pride is, a taste of defeat, and a very painful one at that. Is it ego? The I and the I, when we allow that to slip into too many conversations, can these 3 be classified as the prevalent or the most dangerous, potentially dangerous disease of the mind? Let's hear what Kagbhushundi has to say. And he points out there are 6 major diseases of the mind. And this is not a first in SWA. But just to reiterate, lust, anger, greed, ignorance, hate, and envy. And we will not play semantics and says, well, if one lust, the character of lust is passion. If one is passionate about an undertaking, how can we classify that as a disease of the mind? All of these have the positive sides, but generally speaking, they take the negative slant, and that's what Kagbhushundiji is talking about. The negative side of these qualities are really the mainstay of all diseases of the mind. The grandson of hot, which is known as mud, is the very one we spoke about before, ahamkar, ego. So the 3 proffered answers before are all offshoots, are rooted in one of these 6, as it were. So in these 6 diseases of the mind, which is the worst? Moha sakal vyadhin karamula. Kagbhushundi says moha, or ignorance, is indeed vyadhin, is disease, mool, the root of all pains that come with the 6 diseases of the mind. But before we reach there, we just step back, because it has often been pointed out in satsang that these diseases of the mind can be controlled to a great extent if one were to seek the blessings of Kartikeya Swami. Just a quick reminder, the Kartikeya Swami we are speaking about is the elder brother of Bhagwan Ganesh, the elder son of Bhagwan Shiva and Mother Parvati. He is known as the god of warfare, and we conceptualize that to be the god of physical warfare. He is that too. But he is more so the god of the war of mental attrition, the battles we fight in the mind, these 6 battles. So it is always recommended that in our daily prayer, as is carried on Samkhya TV at 6 every morning, to include certain finite forms of Bhagwan, of that Supreme Being, finite forms which take care or help us to rein in when these diseases of the mind pose a threat to our well-being. And it's not just simply a matter of saying Om Shri Swami Karutikeya Swamaye Namaha, which is a short and effective mantra, but we have to bring to mind too as we say the prayer. We might not be able to bring to mind all 6, but if each time we go to the prayer room, we switch it around, or probably spend 2-3 consecutive days on one aspect of the disease of the mind and see how we can lend some control in our daily undertakings to such a disease, then we are getting somewhere. Then the purpose of prayer is fulfilled. So Karutikeya Swami role in daily prayer can never be overstated. Returning now to moha, ignorance, Ramayan has endorsed time and time again, ignorance can only be removed at the feet of a guru. Yes, our first gurus are parents, and then we might have a purohit of a home, which means the pandit of the home, who we will take in, imbibe some of his teachings and so forth. But at the end of the day, one has to seek out a guru. It is said that one should seek. What age should one seek a guru? One should seek a guru when one establishes that from that person, he has the capacity to help me handle my challenges now and in the future in life. He is a person who not demands but commands my natural respect. And it is thinking like these that brings us to the feet of the guru. Where do we find the guru? Not in the playground. The playground is a nice place to be. We find the guru or the prospective guru in satsang. So there has got to be visitations in satsang from time to time, so that one will be able to harness the necessary qualities that he or she may be looking for and see those qualities harnessed in the guru of their choice. In the interim, there is always, Sanatana Dharma is full of redresses, and there's the redress that we have in the interim of that search, because it has to be a careful search by the chela, by the disciple. One has got to sift, because remember, at the end of the day, into a guru's lap and hands, one is expected to entrust major decisions in life. So we want to be comfortable with that relationship. We must first have clear in our mind that that guru does not have any biases. That guru is seeking our welfare. And once that sets in and settles in, it is time to give that person the rightful place in one's life. In the interim, as we say, there is room for the Vidya Guru. And even after the intervention of the spiritual guru, there is allowance. Allowance can be made for a Vidya Guru to make his input as the case may be, or as may be needed. And this is how, keeping in the company of first our parents, succeeded by the Purohit or together with the Purohit, it helps that sojourn towards finding a mentor who will take care of the major disease of the sixth of the mind, which is moha, ignorance, because he is the one now who will recoil into what the Puranas and what the Shastras have said in answer to our question, whatever question we might have, to guide us and to be rational, to rationalize with us why we should do this and why we should not do this. And that only comes from knowledge of the texts. So one's parents, as good as they might be, one's tutor, Purohit, as good as they might be, to fill the role of a guru, one has got to be in-depth in the declarations, especially of the Shastras, of the laws of Sanatana Dharma. Not exclusively, but especially. Then the philosophical aspect of satsang comes in, what Ramayan's offerings are, and so forth. So in conclusion, the seventh Kand of Ramayan is Uttarakhand, and in Uttarakhand, Kagbhushundji gave a lot of his life history. He related to the very Garud Maharaj, and in that, Kagji was able to highlight where there were missteps in his life. In that revered life, there were missteps, but where he took the necessary actions to correct those missteps, and so he became that great narrator of Ramayan. So we all have a chance when it comes down to rising out of those missteps caused by the disease of the mind, and Kagji in Uttarakhand clearly shows us from where he was to where he went. At the end of this discussion between Garud Maharaj and Kagbhushundji, Eka Vyari Vashandharma Rahi, Kagji says that one disease, Ek Vyadhi, has the power to, Ye Asadhya Bahu Vyadhi, has the power to make one morbid, sick in life. Just one disease, and that sickness may lead to fatality. But in Kali Yuga, Bahu Vyadhi, we are faced not with one, with 6 to start with, and then the offshoots, the sons and grandsons of those diseases of the mind which you mentioned earlier. All these are the challenges of the mind that we face. And if one has the power to destroy us, we have to be guarded, vigilant about not allowing any of the diseases of the mind, particularly moha, ignorance. So we have to take refuge at the feet of a guru, and so he will help to steer us away from being affected in a disastrous way by any of the diseases of the mind or any of the offshoots of the disease of the mind. Santa tapira hi jiva kaha. Kagji, his heart bleeds as he says that these diseases of the mind and the offshoots never back off. From birth to death, they never back off. We will expire, they don't expire. And that is the concern, the deep concern of Kag Maharaj, that we are continually faced and it leaves us in pain. So kimi lahi samadhi, when we are distracted and our energy is being diverted to handling and allowing the disease of the mind to control us, and not we control them, then at what stage? Engaged in those side battles, when that stage of samadhi, when will our attention be fully focused on the Supreme, on the Maker, on the God of our liking and understanding, with whom we have to merge at the end of life's journey? So, as we come to the end of this session and our little discussion for the past 3 sessions on the 7 diseases of the mind, we pray that in God's keeping we stay till next week, and may it be a productive, protected week. Sitaram.